We are talking about stepping into your greater self, overcoming fears, and thriving. That is our goal as we approach this week's opportunities. I want us to begin this conversation first and foremost, by commenting below, lead with courage. Lead with courage. That's our objective. You don't get anything else out of what we're going to talk about during today's conversation. Let that be your call to action, to lead with courage as you approach this week's opportunities. Now, to begin the discussion, I first and foremost want to highlight how all of us, no matter who you are, no matter where you've come from, no matter what life currently looks like in this moment, all of us have had situations and experiences when we did something that really astonished us. When we went to a place within and we discovered more about ourselves, or in some cases, we completely surprised ourselves. In that moment when you thought about it and you said, man, I really did that. I really accomplished that. Man, I really achieved that. Something that maybe you hadn't done before. Maybe you convinced yourself that you couldn't do it. And you took a step. You took a leap. You took that calculated risk. And you ended up coming out on the other side better, a more evolved version of yourself. And you accomplished something that really blew your mind. Every single one of us have had one of those experiences. I want to share with you all one of those experiences that I personally had that completely changed my life. Everything about my life changed after this moment. Back in 2012, I can recall I was asked to deliver my very first keynote address. Now, mind you, I didn't have the courage that I have now. I wasn't in the position that I'm currently in now. In that chapter of my life, I found myself in a state where I was discovering more about myself because I didn't really have a sense of purpose. In many ways, I felt inadequate. I felt inferior. I felt as if I was not enough. And there was a young lady that had heard me speak at a funeral. And she approached me after the funeral had concluded. And she said, we have this event where we're searching for someone to deliver the keynote. And I believe we have found just the right person. I'm like, okay, who you got? And she's like, you. And I'm like, hold on, pause, break. Let's put this thing in reverse, right? I can't do that. I appreciate the offer, but really, I can't do that, right? And she's the type of person where she wasn't going to accept no for an answer. So in this moment, I was coerced into taking on this role. Side note, sometimes people are placed in your path that see things within you that you can't see within yourself, right? And they are the type of individuals that will begin to nudge you towards your destiny. That was one of those moments for me. So fast forward to the night before I'm going to deliver this keynote address the very next morning. Family, your boy D1 was an emotional wreck. I'm thinking about, why did I say yes to doing this keynote address? I'm thinking about how I'm going to walk on that stage. I'm going to embarrass myself. Nobody there is really going to want to hear what I have to say. I have no value to offer. Nobody that's going to be in attendance. There's going to be a lot of people there. I may say something and embarrass myself. I'm going to humiliate myself. This is one of the fears that all of us in some cases often have, right? Public speaking is one of the greatest fears that individuals have, right? There's that old saying that says, I'd rather be dead than to stand in front of a group of people and to speak. In other words, most people would rather be the person in the casket than the one that's going to deliver the eulogy, right? And that's because public speaking puts you into this vulnerable state, right? You're the center of attention. And of course, there may be people there, and in your mind, you're thinking that these people have a certain expectation of what they're going to receive, what they're going to hear, or the experience that they're going to have. So this is pressure that you add on yourself. And then you're going through the narrative in your own mind about you're not good enough, you can't handle this, you have no value, you're inadequate, you're inferior, you're not enough. And this stresses you out. So I find myself, family, in the center of my apartment, pacing the floor with all of these thoughts running through my mind, stressed out, overwhelmed, completely feeling anxious. I'm to the point where I'm like, yo, let me call homegirl up and say, I can't make it. My voice then gave out on me. I don't feel well. I'm sick. I can't handle this pressure, right? And it's in that moment, family, that everything began to shift the moment that I started thinking about what I was thinking about, right? In that moment, as I'm struggling with my fears, as I'm wrestling with anxiety, I took a pause and I started to build awareness around what I was thinking, right? And I heard a voice within to say, David, I need you to begin to reflect on what you're going to share with these individuals that you're going to speak to tomorrow. And I was talking about overcoming your giants and overcoming your personal fears. And as I began to look at my notes, I began to realize that I wasn't speaking to them. I was actually speaking to myself, right? And in that moment, the narrative that had a negative connotation, right, that negative feel to it, began to shift simply because I began to recognize, David, you don't have to believe everything that you think. In fact, everybody comment below that statement. I don't have to believe everything that I think. And the moment I begin to disassociate myself from those negative thought patterns, this is what began to happen. I became empowered. Somebody needs to hear that, right? Because you hear the voice in your head and you think that's you. But the moment you consciously decide, I'm going to disassociate myself from what it is that I'm thinking, you begin to realize that that's not you. That voice is not you. It's just an unproductive thought pattern that you've developed. And now you can take the initiative to reframe it in a more empowering way. Is this making sense, family? Put a fist in the comments below if you're picking up what I'm putting down. And this is where I find myself, right? In the heart of this frustration, this pain, this fear, this anxiety, this overwhelming feeling that I'm finding myself in, I broke the cycle by understanding I don't have to give these negative thoughts mental consent in my mind. And I can disassociate myself from these thoughts and create a new narrative. And this is where the game began to change for me, family, because I began to realize I can master my mindset in any given moment. Because catch this, the moment I begin to change my thought pattern, the moment I begin to break the cycle of negative thoughts, it created a different emotional state within me. Think about that for a moment, right? How many times have you felt anxious? Have you felt afraid? And you're thinking thoughts in your mind. You're creating images in your consciousness, and you're seeing yourself failing or falling short and things not working in your favor. This puts you into an emotional state, right? In some cases, maybe your heart is beating rapidly. Maybe you start sweating. Maybe you find yourself with brain fog and clogged in your mindset, and you can't think clearly. You're confused and you're overwhelmed. But when you begin to break that cycle, your body can be at ease. Your body can be at peace. And now that you're at peace, you can be in a position to now be in power. Who am I speaking to this morning? D1, what are you saying? As I begin to shift my narrative, as I begin to change the story that I repeated to myself, as I began to create new images in my mind and visualizing these images and understanding it wasn't even about me, it was about the people that I came to serve that needed to hear what I had to offer, that's when everything began to change. And the very next day, family, I really didn't sleep that night, I'll be honest with you. But the very next day, I stepped on stage, poured my heart out. And I had so many people approach me and say, Mr. Gibson, hey, David, I needed to hear what you had to say. Thank you for the message. Thank you for what it is that you offer. Thank you for everything that you shared in that moment. Here's what I need us to understand, man. What the enemy sends after you is often an indication of what's at work within you, right? Now, you can classify the enemy being fear. It can be adversity, or it can be some opposition that's trying to stop you from living out your best life. And it's in those moments that you have to understand that fear that you are facing, that anxiety that you're feeling is really an indication of what you need to lean into, because that's where you're going to find your power. That's where you can make your biggest impact and create the biggest difference, not only in your world, but in the world around you. The man that you see now, the person that you see now, will never exist unless I led with courage and overcome my fears. What I'm saying is this: there's a future version of you that will only exist if the present version of you has the courage to step boldly outside of your comfort zone, to lean into those fears, to embrace those things that often bring forth anxiety, and to tap into your personal power. What have you been running away from that you know you need to lead into? You know you need to lean into to step closer towards your destiny, your vision, and the purpose that's over your life. The days of us living our life in fear have to be over right now. You got to draw the line. The days of us overthinking, us taking that initial step, they got to conclude in this moment. Stop living in your head and start living your life. Don't allow your fears to rule your mindset, but instead allow faith to take over in your consciousness, because fear and faith work the same way. They're all just images that you create in your mind. It's all a matter of what you're focusing on. So you can focus on things that intimidate you and things that make you feel afraid and things that bring forth anxiety, or you can focus on things that promote possibilities in your mind, things that get you excited, things that fill you with passion and enthusiasm. I'm speaking from personal experience. The latter of the two will lead you to a more fulfilling life. So step boldly towards where you want to go. This week is full of amazing opportunities, many blessings with your name on them. But in order for you to gain access to the things that you truly desire, you've got to be willing to step boldly outside of your comfort zone. What's that old saying? The cave that you're afraid to enter holds the treasure that you seek. Meaning the thing that you've been yearning for, you've been wishing for, you've been hoping for, in some cases you've been praying for, you've been fasting for, you've been seeking, you've been searching for, is only going to be found in the things that you often try to avoid, the things that you've been running away from, the things that often intimidate you. And it's through those intimidating factors that you need to step into, and that's where you're going to find your growth. That's where you're going to get developed into a better version of yourself, a more empowered version of yourself. So if you don't get anything else out of what we talked about during today's conversation, during today's broadcast, remember, there's a future version of you that will only exist if the present version of you has the courage to step boldly outside of your comfort zone. The call to action is for us to be about that action this week, family. Do it scared. Do it intimidated. Do it even if you're afraid. Do it if other people don't believe in you. Do it even if the odds are stacked against you. Do it if other people are saying you're out of your mind. In some cases, many of us find ourselves in situations and circumstances where it makes sense for us to give up. Like you're looking at the scenario, you're looking at the outcome, and it doesn't look real good right now, but there's something on the inside of you, right, that says, hey, we can do this. We can figure this out. We can build this. We can create this. We can succeed at this. I want you to amplify that voice. I want you to amplify that voice. That's the voice of faith. That's the voice of possibility. That's the voice of you, the greatest version of you, aiming to come alive. But as long as you tune into the voice of fear and allow your doubts to overwhelm you, allow your fears to stop you, allow the intimidating factors of you pursuing your goals and your dreams to hold you hostage and hijack your mind, you're always going to be yearning for more. And you're never going to be able to tap into that true fulfillment that you desire. So the call to action, family, is for us to be about that action. What have you been avoiding that you know you need to lean into? What have you been running away from that you know you need to pursue? I want you to experience that moment where you astonish yourself, where you amaze yourself, where you blow yourself out the water, like mind-blowing, because you did the very thing that you once convinced yourself you couldn't. Family, I spent years convincing myself that my words did not carry any value. I spent years convincing myself that nobody wanted to hear what I had to say. So I kept my mouth shut, quiet and reserved, and isolated myself from communicating with others. Now, of course, this took me down a negative spiral, a mental state where I wasn't at my best. But the moment in the day where I made the executive decision, I'm going to share my story. I'm going to use my words to impact the lives of others. I'm going to make sure I express value in everything that I do. Everything changed for me. Now, of course, it didn't happen overnight, but you know what? You start building courage the more steps that you take. And as you build courage, you start strengthening your confidence. And the more confident you become, the more effective you will be. But you can't become effective until you first take that courageous step. I'm trying to wrap it up, but I feel as if somebody needs to hear this, right? You've got an idea. You've got a vision. You've got a new career path that you want to take. You've got a community of individuals that you want to impact. You have something that you're aiming to start, but you keep talking yourself out of doing it. You keep allowing your fears to hijack your mind and put you in this isolated state where you're in this cycle of doing the same thing over and over again and wondering why things are not changing in your life. You've got to make the decision. I'm going to lead with courage. I'm going to lead with courage. And part of you leading with courage, you have to understand this, right? You're not going to have everything figured out. What does Dr. King once say? He said, I may not see the entire staircase. I'm just going to focus on taking a single step. Take one step after another, one step after another. And also, I'll extend on that quote. As you're taking steps and you anticipate the fear just going away, in some cases, the fear will never go away. The nervousness, the anxiety will never go away, right? Ultimately, what happens is you become stronger. You become well-equipped. You become more empowered. And the things that used to intimidate you, now they motivate you. The things that you used to run away from, now you run towards because you realize on the other side of that discomfort is the growth that you've been yearning for. Mark Twain once said, courage is not the absence of fear, it's the resistance of fear. It's you being aware that the fear is there, but you keep taking steps. So as long as you expect the fear to just simply go away, that's just wishful thinking. No. And you have to understand, all that is hope, and hope is not a strategy. We as individuals that want to move our lives forward and create positive impact and be impactful leaders, we're not just leading with hope. No, we're leading with a successful strategy. The best strategy for you right now is to take action. The more actions that you take, the more that fear will lose control in its grip over you and your mindset. And now you can be in a position where you can be empowered mentally and emotionally. And you can start making power moves towards what it is that you want. Whether it's starting a business, starting a nonprofit, going back to school, getting in your best shape of life, right? Whatever it is that you're aiming to accomplish, and that fear is trying to stop you from doing it, if you start leading with courage and taking those initial steps, now you're putting yourself in a position where you can be empowered. We've said a lot during this conversation, and I'll wrap it up right now, family, again by saying there's a future version of you that will only exist if the present version of you has the courage to step boldly outside of your comfort zone, which is your danger zone. You don't want to be in a danger zone. No, you want to be in a zone where you can thrive. And the way that you thrive is by embracing the discomfort and leading with courage. If you slid into this broadcast and I was unable to give you a shout out, be sure to comment below. And if in fact this is your first time, or maybe it's your first time in a long time, put a number 1 in the chat and then place your first name afterward. Again, number 1 in the chat and then place your first name afterward. I missed a whole bunch of comments. Nothing personal. Your boy was just in the zone. But I'm hoping that somebody somewhere found some value during this conversation. If so, put some fist up in the chat below to let your boy know you were picking up what I was putting down. Most importantly, I'm hoping that we execute on the things that we discussed. I don't want us to just feel inspired, to feel encouraged and motivated in this moment. I want us to take action. Again, that's how we overcome our fears and live our best life. Kevin Mason, my brother from another mother, I don't have to believe everything that I think. Dr. Phelps is right there with you. Great day. Hope all is well with you and the family. Yes, that's how we master our mindset. Blake is in the building. Blessings, bro. Glad to have you tapped in. Bruce, my brother from another mother, thanks. I will get back to work. Let's make it happen. Again, Dr. Phelps, glad to have you tapped in live. Family, share this out with the people that you care about. For those that couldn't catch us live, just share this out, right? They can catch the replay and hopefully be inspired by something that we discussed. Share this on Facebook, share this on LinkedIn. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit the like button. It goes a long way in the algorithm. But again, I would truly appreciate you all sharing this out with your people, because again, you never know how something that we discussed during today's conversation can benefit somebody that you personally know. Fear is something that robs so many people of their true potential. Fear robs them of tapping into their personal power. Fear and doubt and anxiety robs people from living their best life. And we have to understand, in order for us to overcome that fear, we got to start taking steps towards it. The more and more you lean into it, the less power and influence it has over you. With that being said, family, if we've yet to connect on other platforms, be sure to connect with your boy at the number 1 Gibson, including Instagram, Facebook. I'm also on LinkedIn there. And for those, I have many people reach out and say, hey, how can I donate and contribute to the mission financially? What is that? Not Snapchat, but Cash App, is D1 Gibson. So money sign D1 Gibson. Would truly appreciate that. I don't have a Patreon, but definitely if you guys are interested in contributing and donating to the mission, that's D1 Gibson on Cash App. And then be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel if you've yet to do so. ElevationisAmust.com is the website. And then the YouTube channel is youtube.com/David Gibson. That's where all of my long form content is available. Short films, documentaries. In fact, the team is working on our upcoming season of our small business documentary series. So to stay up to date with that, be sure to subscribe, and I will keep you guys in tune as everything begins to get produced and put together for our 3rd season. Excited for that. And again, like I mentioned, elevationisAmust.com. Be sure to check out information on my speaking and coaching services. And then while you're there, check out the online store where you can purchase books, physical books, digital books, and resources, all designed to help you master your mindset and become the best version of yourself. With that being said, family, it's Monday. New opportunities, endless possibilities. As you see that up on the screen, it just popped up on its own, but reminding us to share this out with the people that we care about. But as we do conclude this conversation and wrap things up, if you find yourself in a difficult situation or a challenging experience, just remember that this too shall pass. It's only temporary. I know it's painful. I know it's challenging. I know your back is up against the wall. I know you feel as if you're in this fight all by yourself. But as it gets rougher, you get tougher. Tough times don't last, but tough people do. So I want you to be that one that keeps persisting until you succeed. I love that quote by Les Brown where he said, it's not over until I win. And that's the mindset that we got to have. It ain't finished until I get the victory. It ain't over until I accomplish my goal. This thing ain't wrapped up until I succeed. That's the mentality that we got to have. If nobody else tells you that they love you today, remember your brother from another mother, D1 Gibson, has nothing but love for each and every single one of you. With all of that being said, family, thank you all for tuning into the broadcast. Again, I'm hoping that you found value from this discussion. Apply what we discussed. Do it scared. Do something that you've never done before. Do that thing that you've been avoiding that you know you need to step towards to level up your life. I want to hear some reports back during next broadcast, right? Next week, Monday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I want to hear how somebody took a step towards their fear, overcame that fear, and created new outcomes, created new results, and moved their life forward. Let's make it happen, family. In the meantime, have a phenomenal Monday. Be effective. Be successful. Live with some passion. And most importantly, be powerful. Family, I love each and every single one of you, and I'll see you next week. Peace.